Hey folks, Nick here from Another BookTube channel, and today I'll be reviewing The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones, the third and final book in his Indian Lake trilogy. I have reviewed both of the previous books in this series on my channel. I did not care for My Heart is a Chainsaw. I thought it was good, and then the ending happened, and I thought it became bad. I thought the ending had nothing to do with the rest of the book. It came out of nowhere and was really convoluted and confusing. I enjoyed Don't Fear the Reaper quite a bit. I think it fixed a lot of the problems that I had with My Heart is a Chainsaw, and I was really hoping that The Angel of Indian Lake would keep those good times rolling. Unfortunately, though, it did basically just revert back to My Heart is a Chainsaw like style of storytelling, but like doubling down on it. Like this book was was so much more convoluted. It was so much more confusing. It was so much more difficult to understand what was happening and why. I ended up I really wanted to like this book. I was liking it for so long. I was really into it for like the first half. I was like, "Ooh, there's something here. Maybe he'll stick the landing. This is good. Can he get there?" No. It literally it reached a point where I would say, because I was reading it on my Kindle, so I had the percentage of the book done in the corner. So it was literally at the 65% point of the book being done. The wheels, I could feel them starting to wobble, and then by 70% they had just come off. And to some people, that avalanche of mayhem could be the reward, like the big payoff, the thing that they're looking for. But for me, it didn't feel deserved or earned or anything. It just felt chaotic and confusing. I've given away all of my thoughts already. I haven't even gone into a plot synopsis. But honestly, what was the plot here? So it's basically Jade Daniels is back in Proof Rock. She had to go to prison after the events of Don't Fear the Reaper. And now she's back, and it's Halloween, and it's nothing new. It happens again. Like another supernatural entity is spotted around, people start dying, and then Jade has to like identify what the supernatural threat is, but also if there's a human threat. Like it's just the same thing. It's just the same thing as the previous books. Except what I imagine is that if you are really invested in the Jade Daniels character, like if you love her and the way that she thinks and her relationships with like Letha and Addie and Sheriff Banner or whatever his name is, then you'll probably really love this book, because there's so much of this book it's all just in Jade Daniels' head, and she is thinking in minute details about every slight emotion she's ever had, about everyone she's ever encountered. So if you like Jade, you'll like this book. I personally do not like Jade. I don't connect with her in any way, other than the fact that we both like horror movies. But sometimes just the way that she thinks and the way that Stephen Graham Jones approaches her is so far away from what I feel is realistic. And it just comes off as trying way too hard. For instance, I mean, the pacing of this book is all off, because everything that happens needs to be stopped and dissected by Jade in extreme detail. So like somebody hands Jade a cup of coffee, and then we stop for 3 pages while she thinks about her relationship with that person, the last time they spoke, what horror movie that they remind her of, and so on and so forth. And then the next line of dialogue happens, and then we stop again, and we do the same thing again for another 3 pages. And then another dialogue line happens, and then we stop again, and we think about it for 3 pages. Like, it takes so long for simple scenes to just happen in this book. and and it wouldn't be as bad or noticeable if it was interesting or if it was a character that I connected with. So again, it's going to be very subjective. If you like Jade, you'll like it. You'll dig this probably completely. But as someone who is not a fan of the Jade character, it was just frustrating and slow and plotting. And that's something that's the reason I like Don't Fear the Reaper so much, is because it wasn't just Jade's point of view. He was going to all these different characters and jumping around a lot, and that worked really well. And now we're back to just Jade, and it's just like, oh no, this isn't what I wanted. It's also just so very kitchen sinky because it's not just like a supernatural threat, and it's not just a human being. Like there are like 5 different antagonists that are introduced in this book, and there's like returning ones. It gets so hard to keep track of who is doing what, and like it's just a slasher, man. Like, come on. Like, if you want to write an ode to slashers, write a good damn slasher. Don't hedge and just throw in everything. What do we need animal attack horror for? What do we need, like, I don't know. I don't want to get into, like, I don't want to spoil anything. But, like, what do we need all this junk for? Like, you're trying to elevate the genre? Well, this isn't how you do it. Because this is confusing, and it when it's hard to keep track of who is killing who and why, like even a slasher loses its fun there. You want to know why Michael Myers chooses these specific teenagers, but you at least know that he's doing it, and you know that he's a threat. You know that he's looming. But with this, in this book, it's just like, okay, well, who did that one now? Like, how did they get here? And how does this relate to this? Like, it's all just so much so that you can't figure out how it's all connected. And it's just, I don't know. It's just not for me. I just don't like it. I just didn't like it. I do give Stephen Graham Jones credit for writing some really like beautiful moments spread out in here that do just kind of get lost in just the overabundance of words. And also kudos to him for not having any character be sacred. Like, everyone's in danger here, like, legitimately. And there's some surprising stuff that happens. That's interesting, but it just gets lost in an ending that is so overstuffed and bloated with content to its detriment. Like, an extreme bloodbath can be fun, but it needs to be understandable, and I just don't. Oh, a little bumblebee outside my window. Hello, he's trying to get in. Oh, he's so fat. What was I saying? Yeah, you need to understand who's killing who and why. Like, it's just that simple, and I don't like a lot of the things that he was describing in here. I couldn't visualize because I was like, how did we get here? Like, did we change scenes? Did we change settings mid-sentence? Like, what are we doing? And I completely forgot to mention that every chapter ends with this like legal document that is just like recording the timeline of Jade's like incarceration and like therapy and stuff like that. And it's incredibly boring. It's so dry. I found myself really, really skimming these parts. I may have missed something important in them, but I honestly don't think I did, because it felt like they were doing nothing except padding it out. And if there's one thing this book did not need, it was more padding. I don't know. It was just really disappointing, and I'm disappointed in it. I really wanted to like it, but here we are. Anyway, my arbitrary and subjective grade for The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones is 5 out of 10 too high for all I just said? I feel like 4 out of 10 is maybe too low. I don't know, somewhere in that 4.5. We'll call it 4.5. Do with that what you will. Let me know your thoughts on The Angel of Indian Lake or the Indian Lake trilogy or Stephen Graham Jones in the comments below. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today, but now it's time to get back to reading.